Hello and welcome back to Together We Feel. I have been out for the last couple of weeks. April was a wild month for me. A lot of exciting things happening in my family, helping kids move and relocate. Oh, they're all grown up and getting them settled into place. So I had to take a few weeks and step away, but we're back with week. We have a very powerful panel here today. We're talking about narcissistic abuse signs, healing, and how to reclaim yourself. This is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I had it originally scheduled for December because December is Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Month, but it's also the holidays and a lot of busyness. And so we weren't able to get everybody together. And so I'm like, all right, we're putting it on hold then. I'm not doing this without you all. Your voices are too important to this conversation. So we're here today. I have incredible panelists with me. They've all been guests on my podcast. Many of them have also been on panels with me. And here's the great news is these women have all found their way out of their narcissistic abuse relationships, their toxic relationships, their harmful relationships that show up in various different ways. The sad news is there's 3 or 4 other women that wanted to join and just couldn't be here today. And that tells you how prevalent this tragically is. We're hearing a lot of things in the headlines right now about women and their safety and their lack of safety. And so, like, if any of you've been with me for a while, I'm very passionate about talking the things we've been told not to talk about and giving voice to the voiceless and being the resource. These women all have resources for you in multiple platforms, in multiple ways. They have books, they have podcasts, they do speaking, they have blogs, they have websites. They want to be a resource. They want to let women know that there's a way out. They want people to know the signs. They want you to know you're not alone. So we're going to get into this today, into this powerful conversation. All of their names and their resources will be in the show notes here on our YouTube channel page. Also, go to our website at embracinglayers.com. Find their podcast episodes. Listen to what they had to say individually on their podcast. Learn more about their specific stories. But we're going to get started today. We're going to start with my friend Dana Diaz. We've been doing a book club with Dana. If you follow us at all on our Substack, we've been doing a book club with Dana with her first book. She has 3, Gasping for Air. This is book 1 about her narcissistic abuse relationship with a husband for many, many, many years. Too many years. 27? Is it 27?
25.
Years?
Yeah.
25.
And I was raised by 2 narcissists. That's book 2. That's yes. 18 years. And it didn't end there. We're still going.
So, that's literally, she was getting harassed by one of these narcissists during our book club last Thursday. So literally,
during the book club. It's
so
ironic.
Yes, that is one word. I tell you, so we have been in this conversation for a while, and Dana and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, boy, this panel is at such a crucial time, and it's always a crucial time, but talk to me about is there something specific that sticks out to you that you wish people understood? Because I think sometimes from the outside looking in, you look at these people in these relationships, and we all know that narcissists are charmers. I've had my own experience with narcissistic behaviors in my own family dynamic. They're charmers. They're gregarious. People think they're great. Why wouldn't you like them? Mm-hmm. And then you live with the one, and it's a whole other very unpredictable, emotionally and mentally unstable and chaotic experience trying to figure out what's coming next, waiting for the shoe to drop, who's going to walk through the door. So Dana, what do you wish people knew? Because you grew up with parents that were narcissists, a mother and stepfather. You then married a narcissist, and you have a narcissist in your life now that's is that
the former friend narcissist, we'll put it that way, just one of those lovely female bullies that tries to destroy your life and just sits around waiting for opportunities. But yeah, there's just a few points because I know, I want to give everybody their due time, but I'm glad you started with me because I always like to set the baseline when we have panels or discussions like this, what is narcissistic abuse? Because there's a lot of people out there who say they don't believe in it. Well, here's the thing. You have to separate the words. I have a degree in journalism, so I'm like the word girl around here. That's my nickname is the word girl. A narcissist, we can give so many definitions of that, but on a very basic level, it's somebody who feels entitled to intentionally harm you, in some way. Now, there are good narcissists. There's a scale, and I can get into that, which I might as well. But let me start the narcissistic abuse. It's when a narcissist abuses you. And when I say abuse, I mean it could be any or all abuses, and that's what people don't understand. They understand physical abuse when they see a black eye or somebody got shot or shanked or whatever, domestic violence, which I endured in childhood and in my first marriage and after the divorce of my first marriage. That was all fun. I've had multiple attempts on my life and I'm still standing. Jokes on them. And here I am talking all about it. But we have to, because 1 in 3 women are subject to intimate partner violence specifically, and 1 woman dies every 10 minutes as a result. And that's not okay. And that's a global current statistic. So we need to understand that narcissistic abuse is not just some fancy, trendy term. It is when somebody is enduring multiple abuses. We have somebody here who's going to talk about one we don't talk about often, which is the religious and spiritual aspect. I've undergone financial abuse, sexual abuse, the physical, the verbal, the emotional, psychological freaking warfare. But if anyone wants to read the stories, I have my 3 books. But the other point I want to make is what I've learned is there is a scale, because we hear narcissist. Everybody wants to put a label. I don't like when people label me, so I don't try to label other people. But there are narcissists in my life that I actually love very much. And I call them the so-called good narcissists, if you will, because they're those people we see on social media who have the lashes and the abs. And I mean, they look hot as hell. They know they do, and good for them. They have healthy self-esteem. They might annoy you, but it is what it is. We can still love them. They're not trying to hurt anybody, but we go to that side of the malignant narcissists. I always say it's like tumors. You could have a benign tumor that's just there. It's not bothering you. But the malignant tumors, they're causing you problems, and they might even kill you. Those are the narcissists that I think we are talking about, or at least that I talk about in this realm. And so the only other point that I will make so that everybody could have their due time is that we focus so much. I've been on over 300 podcasts. I've spoken in summits. I've spoken on stages. And everybody wants to know, what are the red flags? Give us the list of characteristics of a narcissist. I could, but that's not the problem. They're everywhere. What we have to do is start asking, and this is a harsh lesson that I had to learn the hard way, what is the red flag in me that's attracting this and being attracted to these personalities? Because when I started doing my writing and digging into my past, I mean, let's face it, I was abused growing up. I had no self-worth, no self-esteem. Well, guess what? That shows up everywhere you turn, at work, in relationships and friendships, and people prey on that. And guess what? Narcissists love somebody they can mold and manipulate and lure and all the stuff. So that is what we need to focus on, in my opinion. So I'm going to take a line from you, Melissa. Use this panel discussion as an invitation to be curious, because you always say be curious. Be curious about what it is about you that's attracting somebody that thinks they're entitled, that thinks it's okay to prey on you and to hurt you and to treat you that way. Because as we know from statistics and from all our stories, it can very well end up in somebody's death. This is somebody that, we have to remember Ted Bundy, serial killer. Oh, he was charming and handsome. Yeah, but look what he was doing. And he had his girlfriend's daughter at home that thought he was father of the year. He was very good to her. The irony there. But none of us married Chucky. That's all I'm saying. I didn't try to marry Chucky, and I ended up with him. So yes, I thank you so much for that. And I think the one thing that sticks out to me always when I look at those, I love the way that term. Love the term, but it was a very precise term. Malignant narcissist is
there's no accountability. They don't do anything wrong. It's always somebody else's fault. They are never the reason. And I also really appreciate what you said about what is it that you can control? You're not going to change them. So what what choices do you have? What is it about you? And if you see yourself in repeat situations, okay, what's happening here? What am I not picking up on? What am I putting out there that I can be aware of? Because they look for people that are empathetic, that are kind, but they also look for people that are vulnerable, coming off difficult relationships, having been abused, overly giving. And when I say overly giving, like really building their identity about how much they can give and give and give without asking for anything in return. And so it's not, it's just those are the things you can control. You can't control them, but you can look at yourself and be like, okay, where's some places I need some healing? Where's some places I need to get curious and uncover the layers of how it is I'm showing up, that I continue to find myself in these situations? How can I help myself or get the help I need to do that? So thank you so much, Dana. So good. All right, Michelle, welcome.
Thank you, Dana. I love what you just said, because I recently, well, not recently, but last year did a self-exercise kind of on what you said. And so I was trying to figure out, after this relationship, and another one that I didn't even realize that was years ago, but putting the pieces together, I was thinking, okay, yes, I've experienced this twice. But when you said, what is the red flag in you? And for me, I took that as, what is it in me that I need to work on, that I need to heal, that I'm not getting satisfied, that I'm looking for somebody else to fulfill, where I'm going to be attracted to this kind of personality, or this kind of personality is going to specifically target me. And so last year I did a exercise. A friend of mine, she and her husband are marriage counselors, and he said, you need to make your list, and not this overinflated list of, 6'3", $1 million, that kind of list, but the list of how you want somebody to show up in your life, how you want them to treat you, the different qualities that you want from them, how you want to feel when you're in their presence. And that's how I was able to figure out, oh, this is what I was projecting to even attract this type of person. And this is more of a me thing. Like, I just happen to be a target, and that's not okay. I'm not saying it's okay, but it's kind of more of a me thing, and something that I felt like I needed to heal on my own. One, so that I'm not a target to those individuals, and two, so that I'm healing this and not trying to find whatever that emptiness is inside of me in someone else that was fulfilling it. So thank you so much for saying that.
I think this is so important. And so many of us, I know I wasn't when I went into my relationships, and this is why I do what I do. This is why I have the framework I have, and I share it far and wide. Is like, it is so important that you know your own value, because you knowing your own value is going to protect you from looking for relationships to fill gaps and fill voids. You're not going to allow yourself to be treated in certain ways. You're going to have a clear line in the sand of what you will and won't invite into your life. You will be clear on what your values are. You will be clear on what fills your cup. You will be clear on how you want to feel and how you want the people around you to treat you. But it starts with you doing your own work. And I think it's like, this is about the things that you can do for you. This is not listen, I came out of a emotionally chaotic household, and I went into a very unhealthy relationship. And I was very hard on myself for years for that relationship. And then I got curious instead of judgmental and said, given where I was in that season, given what was modeled to me, what I saw, what I had been taught, what I was told was true, and it is no wonder. It's more of a wonder that I got out of it. It's more of a wonder that I did not end up marrying that guy. It is more of a miracle that I actually saw through my way through and had enough of the right people around me and created enough space for myself that I was able, because there was nothing around me in my immediate environment that tells me that I should have been able to get on the other side of that. But I did. There was always something in me that, and at some point that woke up. So that was really, but it's that doing that own work. That's why I'm so passionate about women knowing their value and women having these key questions to ask themselves so that they know they don't need a relationship. They get to choose a relationship. Yes, relationships add value to our lives. Yes, they can be very fulfilling when they're healthy and whole. And they're also hard. I've been married for almost 33 years. It's not a cakewalk, but it's somebody that loves me and wants what's best for me all the time, and we're not perfect, but we want that for each other. And so, but we chose each other. I didn't, it wasn't. And so those things are all parts of why I'm so passionate about this, and so passionate. And we'll get to this with Dina and Lizzie in a little bit. The younger generation knowing their own value, the younger generation understanding how it is they can avoid these scenarios and these situations, or wherever you're at right now. If you're 70 years old and you're listening right now, it's not too late for you. And all of us here have very plethora of resources to support you, because you are worth living a healthy, authentic, safe life. You don't have to stay stuck, and sometimes it can be scary and dangerous, and we'll have resources listed in the show notes for that as well. But thank you so much, Michelle, and for piggybacking on what Dana said and talking about that. And you're all of you are doing such tremendous work to support others with the resources you're creating. And we're going to move to Daphne, because she's another one of those people working on a tremendous resource. Daphne, welcome, and talk to me about, I know why you want to be here, but tell our listeners why this conversation is important to you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll start by also kind of piggybacking off of that red flag conversation, because I also talk about red flags a little bit differently, because I spent so much time in my marriage trying to figure out and diagnose what was going on with him, and nothing changed for me until I started looking at myself. And so kind of how I think about red flags is like, what am I experiencing that would tell me that something is not right? So like, do I just feel uneasy around a person? Am I confused after every conversation? Am I lying about did that hit something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like am I lying to my friends and family about what's going on in the relationship? Those are all things that I look at as like, those are red flags. Like what am I trying to cover up? What am I avoiding? Telling myself about what's going on. And for me, I had to look at like kind of why was I allowing these things to happen? Because I'll say my ex, he wasn't like ugly, but he wasn't the most charming person, right? Like other people could look and kind of see like, oh, okay, like, and there were a lot of people in my life that like didn't like him from the beginning and kind of told me what was up. Right. And even I initially was like, I don't know about you, but I chose to entertain the conversations because of conditioning that came from me growing up in church. So I grew up in evangelical churches, both Black and white evangelical churches. And a lot of what I was told was like, essentially, I can't make decisions for myself. I have to trust God or trust the pastor or trust my parents. There's a verse in the Bible that says, trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. So it's like, even if I had certain thoughts, there's another one that says, your heart is deceitful. So it's like, if I had certain thoughts or certain feelings about situations, I was taught to distrust that or to ignore that or to go against that. And was also taught that essentially suffering is a part of life and suffering honors God. So when I found myself suffering in this relationship, I thought that I was honoring God, right? I didn't think initially that I was allowed to find my way out or to leave that situation, because my idea of God was that, I did all the right things. I followed the rules. I didn't have sex till I got married. Me and my ex didn't even kiss until our wedding day. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to magically have an amazing marriage and sex life and all of that, but that didn't happen. And so I really had to divorce my idea of God and divorce that version of faith before I could get the confidence and bravery to actually leave the marriage and leave that harmful situation.
Yeah.
Wow. Stephanie, I tell the people the title of your book that's coming.
Yeah, so I say forthcoming book. It's a manuscript in progress. The title is God Loves Divorce. If you know anything about the Bible or Christianity, there's a scripture that says God hates divorce. And what I learned is that the scripture is really taken out of context. And ultimately, you know, there's an interpretation of that scripture where you can say God actually hates abuse and mistreatment. And I think that's what was being talked about in that scripture. But you know, people can't use that to abuse other people and keep other people oppressed and in bondage. So that's not the interpretation that the church goes with. But once I found a version of God that I feel like believes in my health and safety and liberation, I was able to find freedom in a new version of faith and also in my life and relationships.
Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Daphne. So good. So good. All right, Dina.
Okay, I'm here. Okay, so first of all,
yes, yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were gonna.
And Dina and Lizzie. Oh, go ahead. No, Dina and Lizzie have a combined story, but they're gonna talk separately. But boy, howdy, folks, you haven't heard one like this before.
All right. Well, just to break the mystery, Lizzie and I right here, we were married to the same guy. Me for 27 years and her for 6 years after me. So long story short, it's on our podcast, on Surviving Toxic Relationship podcast. Our story is episode number 1. But essentially, just so you know, I was married to him, then she married him, and then after 6 years, things were just weird, and there were a lot of things happening, and she was just like, something's off. She knew it by then because she'd already had a bad relationship before. And so she and I connected, and I was able to tell her everything that I had gone through. And now we weren't friends before, you know, so she reached out to me. I knew of her because she was my grown kid's stepmom, and they thought she was a wonderful woman. So when we connected and I was able to tell her everything, then, you know, some time went on, and of course we became great friends, and she went to pick up her things and she found a box, and it was full of cards and letters from another woman that our ex had been dating and making a family with for almost a year while he was married to Lizzie, which is why she was having so many weird situations, being locked out of things, you know, being left out of things. I'm going away on the weekend to pray and all these things. And so she and I set out to find that other woman and warn her, because we knew that when he starts dating you, he marries you quick. We just knew the minute that Lizzie and he were divorced that he would run off to this other woman and marry her and be a family with her kids immediately. So that's where, you know, our passion comes in. The narcissist we were with, he wasn't super dark and, you know, malignant. It was more charming, and, you know, it was the kind of relationship that he always had some sort of double life or some sort of double, you know, because he had a sexual addiction. So there's always something going on in the background, but you didn't find it out because he was so good at it. So meanwhile, he's, you know, like Daphne, I identify with a lot of what Daphne said. He was very Christian, very spiritual, went to church with you every Sunday. You know, people just loved him. He would get up and give testimony and tell people about how he had a sexual addiction, and people would be clapping for him and crying. Like, oh my gosh, can you come speak at our church? That was beautiful.
Oh my God.
Those kinds of things. And so it was so confusing. It was like this weird wolf in sheep's clothing, literally. And, you know, you just never quite knew who you were married to. So that's kind of where our passion comes from. And I'll let Lizzie tell her part and go from there.
Yeah. All right, Lizzie, you're up.
Well, trying not to say anything over again that Dina said. And I think I agree with Dina. We kind of resonated a lot with Daphne as well. The church the man of God that just, stands out there. And then when you start sensing, when I started to sense something was just off and strange, that's when the gaslighting was so intense and it was so good. And the love bombing, or, just nothing made sense. And so when we were able to finally find this other person, Dina reached out to this third person. We call her Jane. And Dina just said, I could tell you're a really good person. And we just, wanted to reach out and see if you were still with our ex. And so her and Dina had a conversation, and she called Dina. I mean, there's a lot more to the story, but as she called Dina, and she's like, who's Lizzie? Like, who's Lizzie? And she's like, well, that was my kid's stepmom for the past 6 years. And she was like, totally freaked out. Here is somebody who did a background check, because she also had a very horrible first marriage with lots of things that happened in that. And so she was determined to do a background check. I never showed up on the background check, but Dina did, her kids did. So here's someone who thought they made these right steps to know who this person is. And you find out later on that is not always the case, that they are so good at mirroring you, mirroring. I know it kind of comes out with a little slang from the what's south of me, but kind of mirroring your behaviors, your likes, your dislikes, that it's so hard. And that's what makes it so charming too at times, because like he knew, for instance, with me, it was helping me because I'd been single for 10 years. I raised 4 boys on my own. Their dad was AWOL. And so he came beside me, like just taking me grocery shopping, taking the boys to their, sports activities or whatever. That was like my just, oh, how wonderful and how awesome. But that's how they, as we've all said, they're so charming, but that's how they're charming. They watch, they observe, they mirror, to the point you're like, there's just nothing wrong with this person. And sometimes it goes right through the marriage, because I look back now and I was like, I was deceived for 6 years. Obviously, I wasn't treated horribly. I had a lot of laughter. I had a lot of laughs. But I mean, now, yes, I can look back and say, okay, now that I see the red flags, which unfortunately all of us later on have always done that, where we look back and we go, oh, I see the red flags. But I think it's just learning to also ask ourselves those questions when certain things come up. And kind of going back also, if you have a lot of confusion in a relationship, I can go back to scripture too, because one of the things we use a lot in our books are, God is not the author of confusion. So if you are confused, that is not, I mean, if you're a faith-based person and whatever our thoughts, our emotions, our convictions, it's not from God, because he doesn't want us to be confused. That's never, he wants us to be all clear, have total clarity of others, and to be able to just, if our spirit or gut has a wrong feeling in it, we can call that red flags, but we can call it God saying, this is not good. So I think, that's.
Yeah, I think that trusting that inner knowing, that burning you're getting, that unright feeling, all those things. But we are also, I think, as women, taught to second guess ourselves a lot. And, I mean, you spoke to this earlier, Daphne. And so it's like, and when you've been in previous harmful relationships, you are wired in a way that really makes you vulnerable to these things, because when you haven't experienced healthy and you don't know what that looks like, it's just normal. I grew up in a chaotic household. That was normal. It wasn't until I've been to 3 rounds of therapy in my life. Round 1 was in college in my 20s. And my therapist told me, you've been abused your whole life. I'm like, what? My dad never hit me. I was never sexually abused. I mean, and he was very proud of that. Like, he let the world know he didn't hit women, and sexual predators were awful. Okay. Meanwhile, it was emotional and mental and financial chaos living with him. So, but very charming. Like people on the outside love him. Very outgoing, very gregarious, very friendly. His nickname was the mayor of such and such. Never met a person that wasn't a friend. I mean, that kind of a thing. And so it can be very like, but yet we just never knew which version of him was going to walk through the door. And so when you grow up with that and that feels normal, and then other people start pointing out to you, like I remember when I was in high school, one of my best friends, we're still good friends today. We've been friends since third grade. And she'd watched me navigate this since we were 9 years old. And it was like, we were 16 or 17 at this point. And something had happened. And she's like, she was so mad at my parents on behalf of me. And she's like, this is not normal. This is not okay, right? I'm like, yeah, but and she was like, no, but this is not okay. And it was like, and she and one other friend were the ones that were really like, I had other experiences with their families to kind of help me see other ways of doing things. And that ended up being really kind of a beacon for me. To kind of lead me out of the shadows, so to speak, eventually. But that shock the first time, but no one had used the word abuse with me until I was, I was probably 22 maybe at the time, 21, 22, when this therapist said this to me. And I was like, excuse me? I'm like, you want to tell my dad that? Because if I try to tell my dad that, it's not going to go over well. And he goes, no. They will never cop to that. But it was shocking. I was shocked. And I remember telling my now husband about it later. He's like, why are you shocked? I mean, from the get-go, from the time he met my family, he's like, something is not right with those people. Like he picked up on it right away because of so I think sometimes too, when you come from unhealthy and you just go into a different kind of unhealthy, you don't necessarily have the tools to recognize those things either. And that's why that work on yourself is so important. Yeah. So that you have the tools and resources you need within yourself to do that. But listening to that inner knowing, trusting that voice within you, not pushing it aside. It's there to protect you. It's there to let you know something's off, something's not right. All right. I want to give you each a chance to ask each other questions. So Dana, we'll start with you. Do you have any questions for any of the other panelists?
I could talk all day long about this, and forgive me, I'm going to be a little selfish. I just want to make one more point because I think it's relevant, because I think it was Michelle that in a little chat before this was talking about the cultural aspect, but this is something that we can't ignore, and it's along with what you just said. We cannot forget that 1994, which I don't know about the rest of you, but I was in college in 1994, when the Violence Against Women's Act came out, which made it finally legal for a woman to even call the police about domestic violence that her husband was committing against her. Before 1994, it was a domestic matter. You were on your own. And I don't know about the rest of you, but in 1991 or 1992, I did have child services and police involved when my mother strangled me, and I almost did die that night. And I did go to the authorities. I had purple handprints on my neck, and they didn't do a damn thing. So we have to remember, whether it is a cultural, as far as Michelle said, which I understand, because believe me, I have never sold a book in China or India or many, Hispanic countries. Let me be real. There are things that are just accepted as normal behavior with male dominance. I hate to say, a lot of cultures, the man is the king of the castle. That's how it is. Yeah. So I think we do have to look at that and look at the generational aspect as well. That, if I'm 50, I don't know what the rest of you are, but I would say we're all generationally somewhat the same, as we were raised by baby boomers, or maybe our siblings are baby boomers and they were raised by the silent generation, because when you spoke up about something, this is what I got. The finger to the lips. We don't talk about that. Yeah. So you can imagine how popular I am, because I'm talking all over the damn world about this stuff, and I'm laying it all out there, because I think we need to stop throwing it, what do they say, sweeping it under the rug. We have to take that
Yeah.
rug and we're shaking the shit out. Excuse my language.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to say. But I want to honestly commend all of you for everything that you're doing. And there are so many layers and aspects to whether it's abuse or narcissism. But at the end of the day, I always say abuse is abuse. If you intentionally harm another human being, you can call it bullying, you can call it abuse. I call it you're just an a-hole, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is, and it's not right. But I forget if it was Dina or Lizzie, one of you said that you just have to listen to what feels right. Whether you believe in God, universe, source, whatever, everything is energy. You know what you feel, trust it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going to with that kind of generational narrative piece, I'll never forget my freshman year of high school. I thought I was helping. I was very concerned about how things were happening in my home and the interactions that were happening with my parents and how it was impacting the rest of us. I'd really been emotionally taking care of both my younger brothers and my mom since I was probably 10 years old. Probably really started at the age of 6, more at 8, and by 10, fully asked to be the adult in many ways in my home. And I was very concerned, and I was very close, and our family was close friends with our assistant principal and athletic director. He went to our church, and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to Mr. Sorensen about this. My dad likes him. I think he could maybe help me. I was still naive enough to think that maybe there was, something my little 15-year-old self could do about this. So I go talk to Steve, and I share with him, and he very well intentionally comes back around and asks my dad to go to lunch, and lays it out in a very, very practical, kind way. My dad comes home, he's furious, and I'm grounded for 2 weeks because I talked about what was happening in our family to somebody outside the home. I was grounded. I was go to school, go to practice, go to your room for 2 weeks. And that was my alarm bell. Oh, shit. Okay, well, the writing's on the wall. We're just going to have to navigate this until I can get out of here. So, yeah, it is very interesting. There's a lot of narratives. But Michelle, I want to give you a chance. One last question, but because you did mention that. Talk to me about, because I think this cultural narrative piece is very important.
Yeah, I did want to touch back on that, and to double back real quick on what you said, what happens at home. I mean, I know that the level of trauma that I experienced in childhood and throughout adolescence and even early adulthood was because of that. What happens at home stays at home, what you live by. And I remember when I told my mom about my first book, and I said, yeah, I'm putting 21 years of journal entries in a book for the whole world, because I was silenced, and I seriously was suffering in silence, and that's toxic. And that is, I mean, I'm not going to call it abuse. I definitely don't want to, put that on her. I was not abused or anything, but emotionally, without having an outlet to discuss things honestly, or to be talked out of how you honestly feel about things, to me is very toxic. I think that everybody could agree with that. And that goes in with that whole, what happens at home stays at home. On the culture side, Dana. So I thought that the culture was the reason. And so it was like I was making an excuse for this individual. I found out that no, it was not cultural. Although he was in a culture that allegedly does have a bunch of narcissists. I did not want to even kind of open that bag of worms, but that charming and that kind of, I like to refer to it as like a dual ego, because we would go to these cultural events and this person was like worshipped like a god. And I'm wondering, okay, well, you must be really important in your country. Let me learn. I like to learn. I like to understand. But I was unable to put together the other side of what was happening at home. And this was very short-lived. I mean, we knew each other less than a year. we officially dated less than 6 months, to be exact, 4 months. And like Daphne said, I just started feeling uneasy. Like, and I'm someone that if I can understand, even if I don't agree with it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was me unable to put those pieces together. I'm like, and I remember everything. Like, I don't tell me anything because I'll remember what happened 20 years ago. Like, that's just a talent that I have. And
Memory like a steel trap.
right. So I'm keeping all of these mental notes of things that are happening, not saying anything because I'm still trying to put it together, but I'm feeling uneasy. And so I was ignoring some of the things that now I receive as the red flags that I was experiencing. But the manipulation is what had me thinking that it was cultural. But then also back to what Daphne said, there was a whole spiritual side to it. And I'm getting fed. I'm a super spiritual person and I know the Bible. And I'm getting fed this other side of, well, the devil doesn't want us together. And I'm thinking now, today, I'm like, no, the devil's mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's what you're trying to do to me. But I'm thinking, oh, yeah, he's like, we have to fight for this because the devil doesn't want us together. And I'm thinking, but God never is a fan of me having to fight for something. If anything, he's given me the discernment that you're not him. And what's actually really coincidental about this is this person was allegedly so spiritual, bought a Bible while we were dating. So it's like you're this holier than thou person, and you didn't even own a Bible. Like you just bought one. And these first 4 months of us being together, and you're telling me how you want to become a pastor, and and I had I still don't have a lot of knowledge on the cultural differences from that country.
Sure.
I know that the whole country can't be like that, but I still would love to learn just how they're raised over there. And if that is something that is sometimes bred in certain individuals and where that comes from. Dana, you would know more about this, where what I've read is that the narcissistic tendencies and behavior they start early, and it's usually from upbringing.
Yes.
And
100%.
Sometimes it's not influenced by a parent, but it's something traumatic that happens to you as a child. Sometimes it is your parent putting you on a pedestal. Sometimes it's ignoring you or abusing you.
Yes.
Sometimes it's, or it could be sexual abuse.
Yes.
From someone that's not related. It could have been a babysitter or something. Or it could just be how your siblings were treated around you and someone else was put on a pedestal and worshipped.
All of that.
Yeah. All of that. I mean, and that's really sad because I feel like we all have been through something. No one has a little perfect life. And I think that fortunately, people like us have used that trauma. We have proof of that right now. We're all using it to help others and to heal. But fortunately, we also did not use it to then make an excuse and not hold ourselves accountable to then go out there and ruin other people's lives. There was something in us somewhere.
Accountability.
Melissa, as early as 20, I was in therapy for the first time in my 20s as well, to figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Instead of making other people suffer through this, or just being out there and being a horrible human being. But that feeling uneasy. And I can't remember if it was Dina or Lizzie talked about when you're feeling uneasy and how we need to tell others kind of what's going on. There were two sides of that for me, because one, I didn't even know what was going on. And I'm trying to still understand it. I'm like, I'm second guessing myself, which feels very I'm so sure about some things, and I'm thinking, so what is this? But then the other side of it was embarrassment. Like, I can't go and tell people that this person is doing this. Like, like, what are they going to say? And so it's almost like I'm sure we helped hide their abuse.
Exactly.
Because we didn't speak up about anything that was going on. And I still to this day stand by I didn't even know what emotional abuse was. And I would have definitely recognized it if I would have been hit, which is so sad. Like, why
I
would
know.
why
But
do I
that's
need
the
to be
thing that
hit?
was talked about. That's the thing that
Right.
was just treated as
Right.
abuse.
Right. Like if I would have been hit or slapped or beat or choked, I would have known exactly what it was. And I hope I would have been, it would have made it easier for me to walk away. But because I didn't know what it was, I'd never heard of it. And there were good times and bad times. Like, I mean, you know, we had some good times, but no, I mean, that still is very toxic and can kill you. Just the depression that it caused and the confusion and the cortisol levels. We're not even talking about the health aspect.
Well, and Dana suffers today. We can do a whole episode on the health issues that Dana has to this day that tremendously improved when she got out, and also she will always carry with her. I mean, there's a whole. I mean, so I mean, you're exactly right, though. I think that these people very much kind of bait you into. I mean, that the common theme I keep hearing is confusion and trying to make you think you've lost your mind or you're not remembering correctly or you're just like, this doesn't see, you know, that's part of the plan to keep you thinking there's something off with you rather than seeing you're being set up and really, you know, they're throwing all of their programming at you to try to create that and unsureness of yourself. Because if you don't trust yourself, you won't listen to yourself and you'll stay.
Right.
So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Michelle, did you have any questions for any of the other panelists?
I really appreciate all of you. This is, like I said, this is the topic for my second book that I'm so excited about. It will be finished this summer to go into editing. So giving myself that writing deadline so that it doesn't go on and on, because this is, I don't know if just because it happened to me, then I started noticing how popular it was, or if it's become more popular, or if since COVID now, you know, after sheltering in place, all these narcissists are coming or what it is. But there's not enough light shed on it, even with all of the podcasts that are out and the awareness that is out. So I want to be a part of helping bring awareness and that and helping other people realize that this is a form of abuse, not just the physical abuse. This and in my opinion, I mean, physical abuse is killing people. This is killing people too.
Yeah.
I mean, I was stalked, and I was probably seconds away from being having some kind of medical emergency where, you know, you're in a position where you have to call the cops. We needed to put cameras up. I mean, it was very, very scary. And there just needs to be more light shed and more compassion and just, you know, education is everything, to be able to let people know these are some of the warning signs. This is what to pay attention to. And like Dana said, there's good narcissists and then there's some bad ones out there. And you know, just for us to form a community and protect ourselves. I mean, there are men that are being abused as well. And I can see how I felt as a woman being uncomfortable to admit what was going on to close friends or, you know, a close family member. To I can't even imagine what men that are supposed to be, you know, the bricks and the support and what they're feeling like and having to admit to or accept. So
because of all the stigmas and around and all the ways that we put people in these identity boxes and genders and all these things. So absolutely. Just creating safe spaces and hopefully somebody listening to this conversation will realize, oh, wait a minute, hold on a minute. I am not losing my mind. This is actually real here and I'm not alone and there's resources out here. So thank you so much, Michelle. Daphne, do you have any questions for any of our other panelists?
Yeah, I'm curious. So I'm working on my first book, and I think all of y'all have written books, at least one, on, you know, on this topic and sharing your story. And so I guess I'm curious, you know, why did you want to share? Why are you continuing to share? I know we're talking about like how it's helping other people, but kind of like how is it is it helping you? I know, like, for me at least, writing and really parsing out the journey has helped me see, like, oh, I wasn't just dumb, I wasn't naive. Like, there were so many circumstances that led to me being in that position. And I can parse through that, and that's really helpful. But I'm curious for other folks, maybe Dina and Lizzie in particular, because I know y'all have the podcast too. Like, what have you learned about yourself from sharing your stories?
Well, definitely for me, writing is healing. I didn't realize how healing it is. And I've been journaling since at least like junior high. And it was just an escape for me. But when I realized that a lot of, well, not even a lot, all of the trauma that I experienced, throughout elementary and grade school and college and as through my 30s, all was purposed, and how I was just able to put that together to then help others to bring awareness towards that. I felt like there needs to be more people that are speaking up about whatever it is, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, especially with social media, and you're looking at social media and you see someone's highlight reel of the good things that are happening to them. And we hate to say it, we hate to admit it, but a lot of times you're comparing yourself to these people where you don't even know what their real life is like. And so I wanted to just kind of take a piece of myself and let you know, like, look, these are things that I realistically went through. I am, no one special, just this regular person. And like Dana said through her story, if I can help one person, then that's worth it for me. So I guess to answer your question, it's healing for me to be able to write it out, because it's almost like another level of acceptance and accountability, and not being embarrassed by it and not hiding behind it, and just having that voice of strength behind it and encouragement for others. But then the other side is to help bring awareness to other people that could be experiencing some of the various things that I write about. I mean, I get really personal in my first book. My narcissistic abuse story is fiction, because writing a memoir and having to be 1000% honest was very, very hard. So I'm done doing nonfiction, but healing for me.
Yeah, Dina and Lizzie share too. I mean, you're working on a book together, which I love. And also you've got, the podcast now. So talk about how that is.
Not to take over anything Dina was going to say, but I think really, to be honest, when we look at where we are, the number one thing that I know Dina and I have both experienced, and Dina, feel free to step in, is the feelings of loneliness that we each have gone through in these dark, deep seasons. Confused, shame, guilt, you name it, you have a plethora of emotion. And I think Dina and I shouldn't say I think, Dina and I have a passion to also say, and it's part of one of our big lines, is you are not crazy, you are not alone, and you are deeply loved, because those are the seasons that you need to hear that the most.
Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with that. I think that was one of the most painful pieces for me, is that I had this husband that, was in church, worshiping God every Sunday. And then he was out like roaming the streets trying to find sexual encounters, and, I wouldn't catch him except for every couple of years. And, when I did, I would pack up the kids and leave every time. And then, to Daphne's point and Michelle's point about these, spiritual men that are, just come across as these, wonderful men of God. He learned how to weep and cry and confess and go to our pastor and, say, there's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I do this. It's wrong. And the pastor would be like, oh, God bless you. You're right. This is wrong. And it's a sin problem. And you just need to read your word more. Nothing wrong with reading your word more. Nothing wrong with praying more. Definitely not downing any of that. But missing the deep root issue of I am just gaslighting you, Pastor.
Yeah.
I am just getting you to convince my wife that I am really a good and decent person and that I want to change and I want to be better and that there's a way for me to be better. And I'll just do whatever you tell me to do until I get bored after a few months and I get my wife back. And then I'm just going to go back and do the same thing over again. But again, it took a long time before he built up to where either whether he's doing it again or whether I caught him, I don't know. But
Wow.
when you're in that situation, the shame is so incredibly thick, not only because you identify with this person that you're married to, right? But also because you can't believe that he's doing this. And how do you tell somebody that? How do you tell somebody that my husband would probably want to, be with you if he got a chance, so just be careful. I mean, it's like, it's just insane. And so, there's just so much there and a woman can just feel so alone and have no voice. And then when you add, any kind of faith-based belief at all, no matter what your faith is or isn't, when you add that in, like Daphne was saying, when you add in that God hates divorce and you add in that, that he wants the marriage and that he says, pray for your husband. And that people tell you, I had so much godly wisdom advice saying, God's going to heal this relationship. Look at your husband. He keeps confessing and admitting. Yeah. After I caught him, I finally got that epiphany decades later. Yeah. He'd confess and cry and weep, not until he was freaking caught.
Yeah.
So, the amount of confusion and the amount of just spiritual, weaving in of the truth versus not the truth. It's absolutely exhausting, I will say. And so that's why Lizzie and I also wrote a book for mothers that they're trying to help their daughters not make those same mistakes, to teach their daughters about red flags and God's voice in relationships. What really is God's voice and what isn't? What is boundaries? What is gaslighting? Even with their friends, as young teenagers. Which friends are gaslighting them? Which friends are manipulating? Or what are they trying to get your kid to do? So understanding those things when you're young, because as all of us probably have been through not the best family and not the best, they may have loved us, but we probably didn't have the greatest role models to understand what good and healthy and pure motives looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Just giving them those resources early. And I think it's so important that they, learning to recognize it early on in potential friendships, even because the way girls treat each other now, is still very harmful. I mean, I'm so passionate about women supporting themselves and other women unapologetically. That teaching starts when our girls are young. It's like, we got to quit seeing the girl on the playground, the girl in the junior high hallway, the girl in the high school hallway, the girl on your athletic team or your sorority as the enemy, and start seeing them as your teammate. You don't have to, not everybody's going to be your person, but if we're going to create safe spaces for ourselves and each other, it's by getting curious rather than judgmental, but also having parents that are teaching the girls, their value, what being gaslit is, knowing the difference between manipulation and truth, because there's so much, there's manipulation going on. I think that's a common denominator here. The manipulation and the confusion. It's a very common denominator across the board here. Dana, you want to go ahead and answer Daphne's question, and then we'll start wrapping things up here, because believe it or not, we have already been here almost an hour. We stay on all night. But what I know, obviously I know the answer to this question, but you go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of answers to that question. Yeah, I had said if I could save one person, but the reality is, Melissa held up my book. It's called Gasping for Air, The Stranglehold of Narcissistic Abuse, which I pride myself on the fact that it also, Michelle, was developed from a journal I kept hidden under the couch cushion in the basement because I was locked in the house with a man who was telling other people he was planning to kill me during COVID. And I couldn't file for divorce and I couldn't go live somewhere else. I couldn't even leave the damn house. So I thought I was going to lose my life, but what got me was when I got sick. And the biggest thing for me was, because I don't have this thing in common with you with the faith thing, because he denounced God all day long. He did not want me going to church. There was no God in our house other than what I felt in my heart. But what I know is that this man and what I went through, the chronic stress, as the doctors called it, of living in fight or flight mode, however that is, whether it's spiritually, financially, sexually, with violence, and I had all of it, everything. My deal breaker in 25 years should have been when the first hole was punched in the wall. It should have been when the crowbar was swung at my head. It should have been the knife, the gun, the million freaking things. But it was when my health, when my body finally said, if you're not done with this, then we're out. We're done. I now have a lung syndrome that's like having COPD and fibromyalgia all at once. That's why you hear the scratchiness in my voice, because my oxygen will drop down to 83% sometimes. Then my heart, my low blood pressure, I will pass out. I will get faint. I get migraines. It's fun being me, and I will have this the rest of my life, and there's nothing anyone can do. So I want people to be aware. You're not being noble by staying. Nobody is coming to save you. And forgive me, I prayed on my knees at church every Sunday. God did not come to save me. I had to save myself. But you have to understand that what we do now is providing validation for the people who are in it and don't understand it. We're verbalizing it for them. They are finding something in our stories that they connect to, so that they know they're not crazy. Because these people do go around, and if they're not creating narratives about how crazy you are so that it discredits anything you might say, they are making sure to uphold the facade they want out there about themselves. So yes, nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to believe me. You have to stand in your own truth, but knowing that somebody else has been there, knows how it goes, and understands it, you just know that that person is on your side, whether they're hearing it on Dina and Lizzie's podcast, or reading it in my book, or reading it in Michelle or Daphne's books that are coming out. You know, we all have a way to connect with people. So it's just about maintaining the connection and standing strong together, because together is where we're going to make the change.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we're here today. I mean, that's 100% why we're here today. Thank you so much, everybody, for that. Daphne, did you have any other questions?
I have all the questions, but I know we don't have time, so thank you.
Well, you guys will have, I will, when I send you the link, you'll all have each other's emails. And if you want to reach out to each other and ask more questions, especially if some of you are completing books, you might want to, talk to each other about that. Dana's completed 3, so she's probably can answer a lot of questions about that. So you'll have that information to be able to continue to talk to each other. Dina, did you have any questions for anybody else on the panel?
No, I just want to thank everybody for just having the bravery to be raw and open and tell your story, because I know at the beginning it can really be re-traumatizing sometimes, to go through that. And it's, people might think it's easy to get up here and just tell our story. And after a while it is. After a while, when you heal, Lizzie and I have had multiple years to heal, but I tell you, it's tough. And then there are people out there, believe it or not, that will be very cruel. Will call you an idiot because, I would have left sooner. I wouldn't have let that happen. And they can re-traumatize you. And so it's a really brave and amazing thing. And it's a very selfless thing to do. And a lot of us do it for zero money, for many, 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 many hours a week. Making money at it. So it's not like, it's necessarily that we're being rewarded, except for knowing how we would have been so grateful if one of us would have done this for us back then.
Exactly.
Just to have somebody understand and reach out a hand and help us out of that pit. So you guys are amazing.
Lizzie, how about you? Any questions for anyone?
No, I would definitely like to mirror or echo what Dina just shared. It is hard to keep sharing your story, and I just appreciate each and every one of you for being willing to be transparent, to be vulnerable, to open those wounds when at times. Just know that, just like you said, if you help one person, then you know that you have done something. And I can speak that from someone who's lost a friend. And the last thing I said to her when she told me that her husband probably realized that she was leaving, I just said, thank you for keeping me in the loop. I'll be praying, keep me updated. And he killed her that night. So life is precious. Everyone's story is so impactful. And the more awareness, which is what we're all passionate about,
Right.
I think we can close those gaps over decades of death.
Yeah.
Save lives and really save lives, truly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think, and it starts by having these conversations and continuing to have these conversations and inviting more and more people and removing the stigmas. And because I think you all of you at some point mentioned the shame piece, and shame can be such a gripper. It can hold us hostage. And being able to release that and forgive ourselves and be curious and generous towards ourselves rather than judgmental is such a key component. Thank you all for being with me today. I have so much love and appreciation for you all. I think they are all incredible. I think that my life has changed for the better because I know all of you. And so just thank you for how you show up and continue to bring light and attention to this topic. That this is something that none of you have to do. You can just move forward and be like, I'm healing, I'm moving forward, we're moving on. But you've chosen to be a voice. So thank you always for that. So much appreciation. Because of the time factor, I'm just going to say real quick, each of you, one last thought for our audience. Let's start with Lizzie.
Our normal ending: you are not crazy, you are not alone, and you are deeply loved.
Thank you. Dina, how about you?
Well, I would just say, listen, if you're out there listening to this right now and you're feeling this, something's resonating in you, even if you don't know what's wrong, it's okay. It's okay to not know what's wrong. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, and that doesn't mean that there isn't anything wrong. It just means that you need permission to just be aware that something truly isn't right. Because if that message keeps coming up over and over and over again in your heart, that's not a normal, healthy relationship. You feel very safe and calm and peaceful even during conflict in normal relationships. So just give yourself permission to see things for what they are. Even if you don't have the big picture yet, you will.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's so good. Such a good reminder, because our nervous systems, if they're accustomed to chaos, they'll respond like that's what it's used to. So it treats what it's used to as safe. So we have to retrain our nervous systems to be, feel safe when you don't have the chaos anymore. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Daphne, how about you?
Yeah, I'll echo something Dana said at the beginning, which is that, we're talking about narcissistic abuse. And honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if what you're experiencing can fit into that definition or that box or not. It doesn't matter if it can fit into any definition of any type of abuse. What matters is your experience in your relationship and your worth, the time and the effort that it takes to do something different. Yes, it's hard, it's challenging. If you're listening to us talk and already having questions, like even the courage to ask questions is amazing, and you have what it takes already in you to do something different and do something better for yourself and take care of yourself, because you're worth the time and the effort and the energy it takes to be taken care of. But you have to start with taking care of yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Michelle, how about you?
Almost echoing Daphne a little bit. I just want people to be intentional about navigating their growth. I think that we put it to the side, and knowing more about yourself and learning more about yourself, healing from it, holding yourself accountable, being transparent, even if it's only with yourself, to yourself, is huge. And you just learn so much and you grow so much, and that is forever. That is going to be a constant in life, and it changes lives. And the more that you know about yourself, almost like Daphne said, it doesn't even matter if we're talking about narcissistic abuse or any kind of abuse. Just knowing more about yourself helps you overall. It's all about just being able to connect and to heal. We're all healing through something.
Yeah.
So let's do it together.
Yes, absolutely. Dana, how about you? One last thought, or do we lose you to the storm?
One last thought.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
We might have lost her to this. She's had thunderstorms all around her. All right. Well, I'm going to go with my last slide. If we've lost her, I mean, I would highly recommend all of your books. All of these books that these women have talked about today are going to be, when they come out, you're going to hear from me first thing. If they're not out already, go to our Substack. We feature our new authors there. And also their resources will be in our show notes. So go to our show notes. And if you can't find it, just reach out to me and go to embracinglayers.com and go to that contact form and say, Melissa, I can't find it. I will make sure you get what you need, whatever that is, to give you the help and support that you need. For me, my last thought is you are valuable. You are worthy, and you get to choose. And that means choosing you. And, and if something feels off, trust that. Get curious about that. Follow that. Don't ignore that. Don't put yourself on the back burner. Trust that feeling. It's there for a reason. And take good care of yourselves. So thank you to my fabulous panelists. I'm very grateful for you. Share this episode, whether it's you all know someone, and you may not even know you know someone, but you all know someone that needs to hear this message. Tragically, that is still true in this world right now. So if this resonated with you in any way, and if you're unsure, if you think, I think so-and-so might be in a situation, use this as a door to open. Say, hey, I listened to a really insightful conversation today, and I'm sharing it with all the women I know and all the people I know, because I know we all know someone. So I'm sharing it with you today. And so it doesn't have to be something that makes anybody uncomfortable, but it may be, trust that instinct. If you see something and you think something's off with someone, I always I would rather err on the side of possibly being wrong about that than erring on the side of worrying about offending them and not sharing. So there's still a way to share it and offer it up in a way that doesn't have to be a completely expose yourself on whether you're right or wrong on that. Just share it, generally speaking, of hey, I'm sharing this conversation. I think everybody needs to know this. So thank you all. Take good care of yourselves. And we'll be back next week with a Come As You Are panel here on Together We Feel. But again, thank you to you all. Have a great week. Check out those resources in the show notes. And again, reach out to me at embracinglayers.com on the contact form if you need any information. We love you all. Take good care.
Thank you, Melissa.
Absolutely.